the New Year's holiday in Japan. A lot of great fights that were on. I'm gonna start off with Jezreel Corrales, of course, winning a split decision. Wasn't really shouldn't have been a split decision, but a clear cut decision win over Takashi Uchiyama in the rematch of what was one of the upset of the year candidates back in April. Second round knockout here. Uchiyama managed to last the distance. Gave Corrales some trouble, especially late. Just the accumulation of punches that he landed to Corrales' body seemed pretty troublesome for him. But Corrales managed to pull through like a champion should, a newly crowned champion. Showed that the first fight was not a fluke. The first performance did a solid job of being able to just outskill Uchiyama and also have the will in order to carry on all the way through the 12 round distance for the first time, mind you, and pull it off. He actually showed pretty good punch resistance of his own as well through the fight, where even though he didn't necessarily get hit all that clean all that often, Uchiyama did manage to tag him a couple of times here and there, and Corrales showed solid chin and solid punch resistance to the body as well, which is something that you definitely really want in a champion. A guy that's going to be looking to fight some of the other big names, most assuredly. He's a fighter for Panama. He's definitely going to most likely be looking to mix it up with a lot of the established fighters in the United States and the United Kingdom. And everywhere else on the planet, basically. He managed to pull off two big wins on the road over in Japan. So I could definitely see the potential with him fighting the likes of Francisco Vargas, who of course has a great fight with Miguel Berchelt coming up, or Takashi Miura, who has a fight with Miguel Roman coming up on the same card. So it's looking like the winners are probably going to fight between those two, since they're both going to be on an HBO card, sharing the card together. Vasyl Lomachenko is out there. Jason Sosa is out there. The winner of the Jose Pedraza, Gervonta Tank Davis fight coming up is out there. So definitely looking forward to that. As for Uchiyama, I'm not sure if he's actually going to follow through with his retirement plans, as he had stated were a possibility after the first loss to Corrales. But considering the fact that Hozumi Hasegawa managed to get the storybook ending recently, he did manage to defeat Hugo Ruiz and become the Super Bantamweight champion, WBC Super Bantamweight champion, and then retire as the champion. That title is now vacant, so they're going to be boxing off pretty soon to decide who's the new champ for the WBC at Super Bantamweight. I could see Uchiyama basically trying to duplicate that. So we may see Uchiyama stateside sometime soon. Maybe he'll fight the likes of all the guys that I just mentioned at some point in the near future. It'd be a fantastic way to compare exactly where Corrales stands, or where all the other fighters stand next to Corrales. Because you knock off the number one man, I think you pretty much become the number one man, and I think that Corrales definitely did the job. Uchiyama's name used to get thrown around with the likes of Adrian Broner and Mikey Garcia back when they were at 130 pounds. And considering the fact that Corrales managed to defeat him conclusively on two different occasions and in two different manners as well, both by decision and by knockout, I think he definitely proved his worth and proved his chops as the top man at the 130-pound division. Also, we had Naoya Inoue with a big win, a big not TKO victory over Kohei Kono, becoming the first man to stop Kono, a fighter that had been kind of a long reigning measuring stick along with champion himself at 115 pounds at super flyweight. Fought a lot of the who's who of the division, likes of Kamada, Rojas, Laborio Solis. And Inoue went in there and just shut him down, beat him up and beat him down and knocked him out, and did a fantastic job in doing so. Kono, as usual, came out ready to fight, came out just throwing hands like nobody's business, looking to pull off the upset, looking to break Inoue's will, looking to just, fluster him, frustrate him, and make it so that Inoue wasn't able to fight his type of fight. And first couple of rounds, really, he definitely made life pretty interesting for Inoue. But Inoue definitely showed his overall worth as not only a champion, but really a pound-for-pound contender, a fighter that's just a really high-level fighter in the sport of boxing as a whole, not even just in the super flyweight division. And he managed to rack up a lot of lot of solid rounds on Kono before eventually splattering him, pretty much flat with a clean left hook as Kono came right at him, like a berserker. He just cracked him with a clean left hook. He went down, and it looked like at first like he was out, like he was completely knocked out. But Kono, definitely showing the will and the courage to fight on, got back up, and Inoue then finished him off after that in the follow up flurry. And that's all she wrote for that. Kono, of course, I imagine might do the same as Uchiyama that I was just talking about, because I already read articles saying that their futures are both kind of up in the air. Not exactly sure what both of them are going to do next, but I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Kono wasn't looking to try and maybe win another title and then retire on top. Although if he was to do something like that, I'd imagine he might either want to move up to 118 and try and do it there, or who knows, Eddie Hearn may come calling and give him a nice offer to go fight against Kal Yafai, and I think that would be a fantastic fight, and I think it'd be a good further measuring stick for Khalid Yafai, considering he just took the big step up and defeated Luis Concepcion, albeit an overweight, seemingly out of shape Luis Concepcion. With Kono, he's always going to bring it. He's never had any weight issues before at 115 pounds. I think that him versus Yafai would be a fantastic fight. We'd really be able to see what Yafai's overall skill set is made of, with the type of style that Kono brings. Just the constant pressure, high volume, and, he's really testing your conditioning in a major way. Your conditioning as well as your overall skill set. I think that'd be a solid fight. As for Naoya Inoue, they've been talking about him on HBO, the potential of him fighting Roman Gonzalez. Gonzalez is also in talks with Carlos Cuadras, although at last I heard that he wasn't really happy necessarily with what he was being offered for Cuadras. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Inoue actually didn't come next for Roman Gonzalez. They've definitely been talking him up on HBO. In spite of the fact that they haven't had him on their network, it's really a shame that they're not building him the way that I think that they really should. Even just maybe they should have broadcast this fight. It would have been nice to see him broadcast the card, considering the whole the weight of everything. This was the Inoue fight was of course packaged with the Higashi fight, but Inoue is just gonna carry on doing what he does. One of the top fighters at super flyweight, if not the top fighter. And, regardless of who he fights, he's always looking to fight the best. He offered Luis Concepcion this fight that he wound up taking with Kono. Concepcion turned it down. He offered it to the IBF champ, Joran Ancajas. Ancajas turned it down. So he was left with no other choice, basically. He's pretty much just going down the list like, okay, can I fight the next rated guy? He doesn't want to fight? All right, I'll fight the next rated guy. So, he's definitely doing what we really want our champions to do, and I definitely have to give him props for that. Also, we had a big upset with Yukinori Oguni pulling off a big victory over Jonathan Guzman. Decision victory, unanimous decision. And, I mean, it was definitely a legit decision. I thought the judges had it closer than what it really was. I thought Oguni gave Guzman a bit of a boxing lesson. Guzman appeared to try and almost just improvise in there and just try to beat Oguni on like just pure speed, agility, athleticism. But Oguni showed really good judgment of range, judgment of distance. He had a great jab, great left hook to the chin and the body. His body shots were really doing some damage on Guzman. It's like every time he would hit Guzman with a body shot, it's like Guzman would like throw his hands like out to his side, like almost like, come on, like that wasn't shit. But it almost looked like that was really fake, and he was doing that in order to try and kind of like relieve the tension of like the cramping that was probably going on in his abs, because he just got hit with a clean body shot, and he was like just trying to be like like kind of walk it off basically. But Oguni did a fantastic job. It was definitely a fight that I wasn't expecting it to go that way, considering the fact that Oguni's only loss was to Shingo Wake, who was the man that Guzman managed to, or excuse me, Oguni's only loss was to Wake, who was the only man, or who was the man that Guzman just defeated in order to get the IBF Super Bantamweight Championship. So that title changes hands. Oguni's the new name of the division. It's entirely possible that Oguni may wind up having a rematch with Wake next. Maybe to get some revenge. Be an All Japan fight. Probably do some good numbers over there. As did all these fights. All these fights did excellent ratings from what I'm seeing here, with Inoue managing to finally usurp Kazuto Ioka as the top ratings draw in Japan. And then also finally we had a few light flyweight championship fights. We had Akira Higashi defending his IBF title against Samochek Kokijim, aka Bitavas Basapian. Pretty easy defense for the most part. Higashi controlled the fight pretty much all the way. Didn't lose a round, except I think two judges maybe gave Basapian 1 round each. Otherwise, it was pretty much all Higashi. Good win for him. 12th round technical knockout all the way up until the judges' scorecards didn't play into it necessarily, just because it was a TKO. Ryoichi Taguchi had a very tough fight on the same card as the Carlos Uchiyama fight. Very tough fight with Carlos Canizales of Venezuela. Canizales came in 16-0 with 13 knockouts, and he wound up getting a draw against Taguchi. Put on a really good performance and a great fight, and a fight where, I mean, honestly, if I thought it was a pretty drawish fight watching it live, albeit there was a little bit of choppiness in there. And even looking back, it was a very close fight. But if anybody deserved to win, I do think that it probably should have been Canizales. I don't think that there's any shame on either of their names, really. Canizales, I think, just managed to expose some of the flaws in Taguchi that hadn't really been seen necessarily before. He did show some of them in a previous fight versus Luis De La Rosa, but that was really more De La Rosa just ambushing him and throwing constant shots, and Taguchi being kind of like caught by surprise by somebody that was just willing to just go all out on him. With Canizales, it was a little bit of that, but in more of an ambush style. It's almost like he would flurry, then he would move, flurry, move, and he had very fast hands, very fast feet. Showed himself to be a pretty high-level fighter, high-level boxer in there. Taguchi had won the early rounds, and I thought probably won the championship rounds, which is basically what managed to allow him to save his title, because it seemed like some of his body work, similar to the Uchiyama-Corrales fight, managed to slow down Canizales enough that he won those last few rounds, and Canizales wasn't quite as mobile and overall effective in the later rounds as he had been in the middle rounds. And so just a draw right there, and I'm not sure if they're necessarily going to do a rematch. I do think that Taguchi's going to wind up having to defend against his next mandatory, which, funny enough, is a fighter in Robert Barrera from Colombia, who he is 16-1 with 10 knockouts, and that one loss came to Carlos Canizales. It's a pretty funny situation there. Taguchi, and that loss was actually by split decision as well, so it was a close loss. Taguchi versus Canizales 2 be a fantastic fight. Taguchi versus Barrera, I think you can't really complain too much about that, considering Barrera and Canizales are pretty much on an equal level. So that means that he should be able to provide a pretty significant challenge for Taguchi as well. And then finally, Kosei Tanaka versus Moises Fuentes. This was really the breakout performance of the weekend. One of the breakout stars, I think, of 2017, Kosei Tanaka. 21 years old, only 8 fights in, and he's already a 2-weight champion. Completely demolished Moises Fuentes in 6 rounds, and basically made one of the best wins, if not the best win, on French pound-for-pounder Donny Nietes' resume look pretty pedestrian. Went in there and just handled them. Showed really good hand speed, good foot speed, great jabs, hooks off the jab, great body work. He had shown fantastic body work as a 105-pounder as well. And he's a very ambitious fighter. He's already a 2-weight champion, 8 fights, and he said that he ultimately wants to become a 5-weight champion. So who knows? We may see Kosei Tanaka, moving up to 112 and 115 in the next couple of years. Maybe he'll be the next rival for the likes of Inoue, Gonzalez, Cuadras, and so on and so forth. He'll be able to mix it up there, possibly eventually. But in the near future, he has made it a point to say that he wants all Japan unifications. Japan controls 3 of the 4 belts at 108 pounds. The last belt is held by Ganagana Lopez, the WBC belt by Lopez of Mexico. He's going to be fighting Pedro Guevara coming up soon. And Kozai Tanaka wants fights with both Taguchi for the WBA and Yagashi for the IBF. He wants to unify. So that's looking pretty solid for him. But that's all I got to say about these fights, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.